Welcome to Pause and Respond. I'm Josua Rine, licensed professional counselor. In today's episode, we're going to explore one of the hidden dangers of living for everyone else. Because sometimes people don't disappear because they leave. Sometimes they disappear inside their responsibilities. And perhaps the question beneath all of it is, who are you when nobody needs you? Sometimes people don't disappear because they leave. Sometimes they disappear because they stay. They stay responsible, dependable, available, strong. And somewhere in the middle of taking care of everyone else, they quietly lose themselves. And perhaps that's why some of the most exhausted people in the world are also the most needed. Not because they're weak or broken, but because everyone depends on them. And after a while, being needed starts to feel like an identity. Not something you do, but something you are. Because being needed feels good. It feels important and meaningful. It's nice to have people appreciate us and depend on us, even thank us and tell us how strong we are. And if we're honest, there is something strangely seductive about being indispensable. Because being needed gives many people purpose. It gives them significance. It gives them identity. And that's why being needed can become emotionally addictive. Not because responsibility is bad, but because being needed can quietly become the place where we go to find our worth. And perhaps the reason some people struggle to rest isn't because they're too busy. Perhaps it's because rest, or the idea of rest, threatens their identity. Because if your worth is built on being needed, then slowing down may feel very dangerous. Saying no feels selfish. Disappointing people feels terrifying. And asking for help, well, that's almost impossible. Not because you don't want peace, but because peace raises a question you've spent years avoiding. Who am I when nobody needs me? And perhaps that's why exhaustion isn't always the problem. Sometimes exhaustion is simply protecting an identity. Maybe you're the person everyone calls, the one who fixes problems, carries burdens, pays bills, always the first to check on everyone. And perhaps you've become so accustomed to being needed that you've forgotten what it feels like to simply be. Not useful or productive, not responsible for everyone, but just be human. Maybe you're the father who works long hours and everybody appreciates the sacrifice, but nobody asks how you're doing. Maybe you're the mother who keeps the entire family running, and everyone depends on you, but nobody checks on you. Maybe you're the oldest child, the strong one, the responsible one, the one who learned early that everybody else's needs come first. Maybe you're a pastor, a therapist, a teacher, a caregiver, a leader, the friend that everybody calls at midnight. And perhaps somewhere along the way, you become excellent at taking care of everyone else and terrible at letting anyone take care of you. Maybe you answer texts immediately, but ignore your own needs for weeks. Maybe you're uncomfortable receiving help. Maybe you're uncomfortable receiving compliments. Maybe you know how to care for everyone else and have no idea how to care for yourself. Maybe you've secretly resented people needing you, while at the same time fearing they won't. Because perhaps that's one of the strangest places a human being can live. Resenting the weight and fearing its absence, wanting relief and fearing irrelevance. Because perhaps some people don't know who they are apart from what they do. And maybe that's the cruel irony. You can spend so much time becoming who everyone needs that you forget who you are. Not because you wanted to disappear or anybody even forced you to, but because responsibility slowly became your identity. And identities are hard to question, especially when everyone applauds and supports them. Because some identities are prisons with applause. People celebrate the strength, admire the sacrifice, depend on your reliability, and all the while, they may never notice that you're disappearing, including you. And perhaps that's the loneliness hidden inside responsibility. Not that people don't appreciate or love you, but that somewhere beneath all the usefulness, you've started to disappear. You're exhausted. Not necessarily physically, but emotionally. Maybe you're tired of being the strong one, tired of being responsible and dependable. And what makes you feel guilty is that everyone keeps telling you how amazing you are, how grateful they are, how much they appreciate you. And yet something inside you quietly whispers, but does anybody really know me? Or would anybody notice if I stopped? Or maybe the question is, who takes care of the person everyone depends on? Or who am I when nobody needs me? Because that's the question hiding underneath the exhaustion. Not can I keep doing this, but do I matter apart from what I do? And perhaps that's the conversation we need to have, because some people don't disappear because they walk away. Sometimes they disappear inside their responsibilities. Perhaps that's why letting go of being needed feels so frightening. Not because responsibility is bad or helping others is wrong, but because after enough years, being needed stops feeling like a role and starts feeling like who you are. Maybe you spent so much time being the strong one that weakness now feels shameful. Maybe you've invested so much in being dependable that you believe asking for help feels selfish. Maybe the amount of time you've spent caring for everyone else now leaves you feeling uncomfortable when someone tries to take care of you. Not because you don't want love, but because you've forgotten how to receive it. People call you the rock, and perhaps that's supposed to be a compliment. Maybe they tell you something like, I don't know what we'd do without you, or you're always so strong, everybody depends on you. And maybe everyone around you thinks they're honoring you, but instead of feeling loved, you begin to feel trapped, because now you can't stop. And that's one of the strangest things about responsibility. Sometimes people become trapped inside the compliments they receive, because being needed feels safe. It's where some people get appreciation and admiration. It's where they receive praise. And maybe that's why identities are so hard to question, because everyone applauds them. Nobody usually argues with the provider. Nobody criticizes the caretaker. Nobody tells the strong one to stop being strong. Nobody warns the helper that they're disappearing into their own background. And that's because from the outside, everything looks admirable. And maybe that's the danger. Some identities are prisons with applause. Maybe the irony in that is this: prisons don't always look painful. Sometimes they look successful, respectable, noble, even holy. And sometimes the person trapped inside the prison doesn't realize they're trapped, because everybody else is applauding, including them. Maybe you secretly hope somebody notices you're struggling. Maybe you secretly wish someone would ask, "Are you okay?" And then when they do, you just smile and say, "I'm fine." Because you've become so good at performing strength that you've forgotten to allow to be human. Perhaps you've become so accustomed of taking care of everyone else that you no longer know what you need. You no longer know what you feel or how to receive it, or simply just how to pause and rest. Some people become so good at performing strength, they lose access to themselves, not just to other people, but to themselves. That's why some people secretly resent the very people they love. Not because they hate them or want to leave, but because they're exhausted. Because everyone sees what they do, while nobody sees what they carry. That guilt is almost unbearable. Because they love their spouse, they love their children, they love helping, they love serving, and yet part of them quietly whispers, "I don't want to do this anymore." And immediately they begin to feel selfish, ungrateful, and broken. Maybe they're none of those things. Maybe they're just simply tired. One of the strangest places a human being can live is resenting being needed, while simultaneously fearing not being needed, wanting relief and fearing irrelevance, wanting rest and fearing replacement, wanting freedom and then fearing invisibility. Because if being needed became your identity, then who are you without it? That's why rest feels so dangerous. Not because you're lazy or selfish, but because slowing down forces you to question you've spent years trying to avoid. That question, would I still matter if I stopped carrying everyone? Maybe that's why people stay exhausted, because the exhaustion can feel safer than the irrelevance. Beneath all of this is another fear. Not will people love me, but will people still choose me? Will they choose me if I disappoint them, if I need something, if I simply just say no to one of their requests? Will people still choose me if I stop carrying everything? Perhaps in their mind, usefulness has become safer than honesty. Performance has become safer than vulnerability. And being needed has become safer than being known. People spend years becoming indispensable while slowly becoming invisible. Not because they stopped mattering or they stopped loving, but because somewhere along the way, they confuse their value with their usefulness. The opposite of being known isn't loneliness. The opposite of being known is becoming a role. And perhaps that's the conversation we need to have. Because you were never meant to be needed more than you were known. Exhaustion isn't always about being tired. Sometimes it's about grieving. Not grieving another person, but just grieving yourself. Maybe the person you miss the most is the version of yourself you abandoned, the dreams you stopped dreaming, the needs you stopped acknowledging, the feelings you stopped sharing, the hobbies or personal goals you stopped pursuing, the rest you simply just stopped allowing, the parts of yourself you quietly placed at the altar of responsibility. Not because anybody forced you or demanded it, but because somewhere along the way you decided that everyone else's needs mattered more than yours. And you didn't even notice you were disappearing until one day you looked in the mirror and quietly wondered, what happened to me? Where did I go? When did I stop being a person and just become a role? You can spend so much time taking care of everyone else that eventually you become the stranger. Not your spouse, not your children, not your friends, but to yourself. Maybe that's why some people feel restless. Not because they're selfish or ungrateful, but because something inside of them remembers. Something inside of them remembers who they used to be. And that ache, it isn't the enemy, it's grief. Grief is evidence that something valuable has been lost. Now, maybe healing begins with permission. Permission to rest, receive. Permission to disappoint others or just to say no. Permission to need, to be tired, to just be a human. Because some people have spent so long earning love that they no longer know how to receive it. They know how to provide, fix, serve, sacrifice, or rescue, but they have forgotten how to simply just receive love. And that's because they believe receiving is selfish, that their needs are embarrassing, that their weakness feels dangerous, and rest feels irresponsible. Now, none of these things are true. But people hold on to these thoughts because they violate the identity that's kept them alive. And that's why learning to receive can feel terrifying, overwhelming. And that's not because you're selfish, but because you're changing. One evening, Mark finally says, I don't know who I am when I'm not fixing things. And Sarah quietly responds, I don't know who I am when I'm not taking care of anyone. And for a moment, neither one tries to solve anything. No performances, no rescues. Neither of them try to carry the burden of each other. They simply just tell the truth. And maybe for the first time in years, they don't feel alone. That doesn't mean life became easier because they told the truth. All their problems haven't necessarily disappeared. But it starts because neither person was pretending anymore. And that's a place where healing can begin. Not when people stop needing you, but when you stop believing that being needed is the reason you matter. The greatest lie many good people believe in is this: I matter because I'm useful. I matter because I'm strong. I matter because I provide, because I'm dependable. I matter because people need me. And that lie, it'll work for a while. It'll work until it doesn't. Until the exhaustion, the resentment, the loneliness, the role that we squeeze into to meet the needs of everyone else becomes too heavy. Because your value was never supposed to be negotiated through the contract of usefulness. Your worth has never meant to be rented out to other people's expectations. You were never meant to earn your humanity. You mattered before you produced. You mattered before you performed, before anyone has thanked you, before anyone became dependent on you or called you strong. You mattered before anyone ever needed you. And that's because being a human was always enough. And perhaps that's the truth exhausted people struggle to believe. Not because they're broken, but because they've spent their entire lives proving what never should have required proof. The goal isn't to stop serving people. The goal isn't to stop loving or helping or to abandon responsibility. The goal is to stop abandoning yourself while you go about doing those things. Because the love was never supposed to cost you your identity. It was never supposed to erase your humanity. And it was never supposed to make you invisible. The people who truly love you, they don't need another performance from you. They just need you. Not your role, not your usefulness, not your strength. You. Because you were never meant to be needed more than you were known. And becoming known again begins with becoming a person again. Now, if today's episode resonated with you and you've spent years being the strong one, the dependable one, the helper, the person everyone seems to rely on, I want you to know something. You don't have to earn your worth. You don't have to earn your humanity. And you don't have to carry life alone. If you'd like to go deeper into emotional health, relationships, and boundaries, and learning how to live with greater honesty and intention, I'd love to invite you to visit pauseandrespond.com. There you'll find books, workbooks, articles, and additional resources designed to help you better understand yourself, strengthen your relationships, and learn how to respond with greater clarity. Everything we do here at Pause and Respond is built around one simple idea: that less reactions equal more choices. So if you're ready to continue the journey, visit pauseandrespond.com and explore the tools we've created to help you build stronger relationships and a healthier emotional life. And remember, you don't have to prove what never should have required proof. You don't have to earn your right to rest. You don't have to apologize for being a human. You don't have to disappear and hide inside your responsibilities. Because the people who truly love you, they don't need another performance. They just need you, the authentic, real you. Thank you for spending this time with me today. I'm Josua Rine, and this is Pause and Respond. Less reaction, more choices.